morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I am back with you for another summer mini episode of Weekly Energy Boost. Today we are talking about living a lotus flower life, and I will explain more in a minute. Reminder, Weekly Energy Boost is a 7-day spiritual weather forecast in which we provide our listeners with the most powerful and practical tools to navigate the coming 7 days by delving into the teachings and tools of the wisdom of Kabbalah. And even though we're focused on this week's opportunities and potential pitfalls, you can use these teachings and tools anytime. And this week we're talking about living a lotus flower life, because if you've ever seen a lotus flower grow, you know that it can only grow, or its natural environment is muck, is mud, is swampy water. And yet it is one of the most glorious and beautiful expressions of nature, of the light force of the Creator, and really represents, I think, in not only in the Far Eastern philosophies, but even when we see a lotus flower, it is a symbol of harmony and peace and tranquility. So how do we live a life of harmony and peace and tranquility when we're living in a life that's pretty muddy? And that's really what this week is giving us the opportunity to reflect on. And it comes at us in various different angles, I would say, ways, shapes, and forms, different lessons that we can learn or perspectives that we can take. I'm going to try and share as much as I can in a condensed form. And I really think that just by having this perspective shift, it will really, I really see and feel the flood of light that we can bring into the world by just making these tiny perspective shifts. So it begins, living a lotus flower life begins by looking at all of the things that we allow around us to limit us. Maybe it's a family situation, a living situation, right? You may have family members you live with or roommates that you live with that don't allow you to do X, Y, or Z, don't allow you to be X, Y, or Z. If you didn't have them, or if you weren't in the financial constraint that you're in, you would do X, Y, and Z. Financial constraints, another big one. Maybe you have people in your life that you feel wish ill for you or are jealous of you. Maybe you feel that there's people around you that make you or keeping you small, or boxing you in, or judging you, or gossiping about you, or pigeonholing you, right? The mud is really any negative circumstance that we allow to define us, or to limit us, or to bring us down. Maybe you're just sad about it or angry about it, and it doesn't really limit or prevent you from doing anything, but it brings you down when you think about it or you have to experience it. So if you can, even as you're listening to me talk, think about what are those things for you, and we'll talk about how to understand them or transform our perception and how they affect us. But so the starting point, let's say, once you have that example in your mind, is everything and everyone that crosses our paths is sent from the Creator to help us grow. We've been talking about that the past few weeks. I do believe it is a resounding message through all the teachings of Kabbalah that we talk about on the Weekly Energy Boost. But that theme, I think, increases in these months because it is so much easier in the months of Cancer and Leo, as we talked about before. We're in the month of Cancer. Month of Leo is to follow. They are Kabbalistically, they have the reputation in Kabbalah of being more challenging than most of the other months of the year. And that just increases the importance of us maintaining certainty, right? Certainty isn't confidence. It's not self-esteem. It's not self-worth. It's not having a positive attitude. It's not the law of attraction. I can tell you what it's not. I'll tell you what it is. Certainty is knowing that there is a system of cause and effect in our world, knowing that the light force of the Creator is behind everything in my life and in the world, no matter how dark or bad or uncomfortable it feels, it is all for the good. That's what certainty is according to Kabbalah. The words for certainty in Kabbalah are very, you know how they say that there's many words for ice in the Inuit language. There's many words for certainty in the wisdom of Kabbalah. And they all have to do with living, not intellectualizing. It's not about belief or hope. It is about knowing and embodying that knowing and living a life of certainty. To have certainty is to know that the Creator is involved in everything and within everyone, no matter how negative. And by the way, I mean, I can prove this to you. Imagine if I could prove it to every single one of you individually. But if we all go back into our lives and we think about something that we judged, we assumed was negative at the outset, but ended up being a tremendous blessing in our lives, all of us could write a book, right? So many of the hardest things in our life end up being the best things for us. So in these days, in this week, we have the ability to see the light in everything that we experience, to grow our certainty that the light of the Creator knows better what we need than we do, and to recognize that if we're experiencing something as bad, there's many different ways that the Kabbalists talk about this. We either can say that the blessing is currently concealed, right? Light, the Kabbalists teach that blessings are often wrapped in prickly or stinky packages, wrapping, and we haven't gotten yet to the inside of the package. There's also the idea in Kabbalah that if we look at a situation or a person and deem it as bad or wrong or fill in the blank, what we're really doing, essentially, energetically, is tasting a fruit before it's ripe. So if you bite into a persimmon before it's ripe, I don't recommend it. It's one of the most horrible experiences, horrible culinary experiences. The skin, your inner mouth sticks to your teeth. It's very difficult to wash it out, but it's a perfect example of that can be, you can look at the persimmon and say, this is garbage, right? I'm never going to taste a persimmon again in my life. But if you've ever had a ripe persimmon, it's a beautiful experience, and probably you think of it as one of the sweeter fruits. And by the way, that's also part of the teaching, is that the more sour a fruit is when it's not ripe, the more sweet it will be. That's scientific. The more sweet it will be when it's ripened. So a more sour fruit is actually less sour when it's unripe. And that understanding, first of all, think about that for a second, that the hardest things are actually the bigger blessings, and the things that are not as hard are intended to give us the lesser blessings. So even when you say, well, okay, maybe the challenge that you're facing is someone, quote unquote, doing something to you, someone making something a certain way. According to Kabbalah, the way that the universe works is that if you need to go through a certain experience, the universe will present a person, and maybe I'll give it to you more practically, and I'm sure I've given this example over the, 7 years we've been doing this podcast. But let's say, for example, according to your tikkun, according to your soul's correction process and what you need to experience in life, you need your foot stepped on, right? That will heal your tikkun, balance your energy. I don't make the rules. So let's say you need someone to step on your foot. The universe is orchestrated so precisely that you will be presented not with an individual who has to step on someone's foot, because we live in a world of free will, no one has to have their foot stepped on. You'll be presented with the person who needs the test of, am I paying enough attention, or am I not going to pay attention and I'm going to bump into this person and step on their foot? Maybe they're carrying a stack of books, bags of groceries. They're rushing to the hospital because doesn't matter why they're being presented in the 1% in the physical, what their physical excuse for rushing or not paying attention is. Your paths will cross with that individual if he or she wakes up, says, there's a person coming toward me, I'm going to divert. Then you will your path will need to cross with another similar situation in the future. Or maybe you'll kick a table leg instead and have the same pain executed upon you. But if that person doesn't pass the test, doesn't pay attention, isn't more aware of their surroundings, and does step on your foot, you're done with your part of the process. And then he's going to need to go through some sort of balancing of that energy for his correction process. Why is that an important understanding? Is that even when the situation involves you hurting, You're someone doing something ill towards you. Okay, that wasn't premeditated. I'm sure many of us have experienced negativity that is premeditated. But the idea is that that person who has that premeditated negativity toward you, they have a choice about it. They may be failing the choice. They may be choosing the wrong option, but their paths are being crossed with yours, even if they're family. This is how it works. And your test is... I honestly, I really don't like that word specifically, but your opportunity is, am I going to fall to the perception that this is bad? Am I going to fall to the perception that there's no light in this, that God is skipping over this, or God's making a mistake, or there's a blip in the system? Or am I going to understand that this is exactly what I need, that I'm going to embrace the process rather than run from it, rather than deny or reject or pretend it's not happening? Am I going to embrace it and therefore allow it to give me what it's meant to give me, what it's intended to give me, because it's happening for me, not to me? And then I no longer need that situation. So yeah, there are definitely some situations that outlast others, some that may seem more permanent than others. And that is just an indication of how important that growth and transformation is. But in the bigger picture, what we're able to do this week is to take whatever negativity we perceive is existing around us or being thrown towards us and transform it, because it's not meant to be negative. It's not meant to hurt or to punish. It's not meant to limit or inhibit. It is meant to be a situation that allows you to grow. And so again, part of the lack of the spiritual ozone layer in this week and this month maybe amplifies the perception of the darkness, but it's important to us to remember that some of the worst things, some of the greatest negativity in the world yields the greatest positivity. The more bitter the fruit is when it's unripe, the sweeter it's going to be when it's ripened, when the process has come to its fruition. And that we have the choice what energy, what weight we're going to give the different situations in our life. And if something is hard for you, you can choose to give it less weight. Weekly Energy Boost is available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, where you can follow us and receive more content based on every episode. You can also go to our website, weeklyenergyboost.com, where you can find our archives, messaging mechanisms, and also the opportunity to donate and support our podcast. Our biggest ask of you is to share this episode and rate and review wherever you listen. We'll see you next week for another summer mini episode of Weekly Energy Boost.